Hi folks, we're Taskless today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about how many ethics complaints, procedural complaints, and other judicial related complaints does it take to remove a minority judge, particularly an affirmative action, ticks all the boxes, minority judge, black, female, lesbian, that sort of thing. How many complaints does it take to have them removed from their job, even from lower courts, where the removal process is really not that hard? And how many complaints does it take to remove a straight white male judge, even from more senior courts? Now, the further you move up the court food chain, you don't want judges subject to direct political interference, such as do what we want or you're going to lose your job or that sort of thing. So not that judges can't be got at in other ways. Mr. Justice Smith Jones, Mr. Justice Billy Bob. Look, your son's in university studying, and we don't want a situation where the police go into his dorm room and find 100 kilos of white powder. We don't want that situation to occur, and I'm sure it won't. And if you just do what we tell you to do, so they can still be got at, but maybe not as directly as otherwise might be the case. Now, you don't want to again. The easier it is to remove judges, the more and the greater will be the political interference, which is why in the Supreme Court you've got a job for life, because you don't want it to be. The political interference only occurs with the appointment itself. After that, it's much harder to threaten and intimidate judges. Not that it can't be done, but it's just hard. You can't threaten them with, bribes are probably not really that big a deal, because the judges are quite well paid. They've got a job for life. They've got a very generous pension. So unless you've got a judge, say, with a terrible gambling habit or something like that, you probably don't have any way of getting at them other than through ideological means, like Ketanji Brown Jackson. You could probably go to her and say, listen, this is a black rights issue, so why don't you decide this or that way, which she may do anyway, given that she's more activist than judge, in my opinion. Now, I've been going through and noticing that there's been a number of female judges, black female judges, that have been removed from the bench, from being a judge, removed from the bench for ongoing and sustained malpractice over a period of years, several years, and the number of complaints against them to the relevant, judicial commissions and regulatory bodies and official recorded complaints and ethics committees, all this sort of stuff. The complaints against them number, in some cases, more than 50. So now, over a period of 6 years, you've got 50 complaints against you, and serious complaints. We're not talking minor stuff here. Serious complaints to do with due legal process and judicial process and so on. And now this is a lot of complaints, and yet the authority that has the power to remove the judge doesn't do it. They don't even, as far as I can tell, have any official reprimanding for the judge. Say, listen, your behaviour is really out of line. You better fix this up or else. There isn't even that. And only when the matter flares up into being spread all over the media does these regulatory bodies decide to act. Only then, and it's only because they're embarrassed into it and they think, holy crap, we better do something here. We don't want to bring the judiciary into disrepute or nothing. So now there's a fanatical and burning desire to put minorities into judicial positions, and it's affirmative action on quadruple steroids. They've lowered the bar to below floor level. It's like under sea level. To get these Shaniquas appointed to these judicial positions, and once there, they then don't want to remove them, but they're not doing anything to try and make it work. I mean, if it was sort of me in that situation, I would think, okay, you're appointed to the judge's position. It was a bad or wrong decision in the first place. You should never be affirmative actioning things like this, for goodness sakes, just for the optics and the cosmetics of it all. You should be highly qualified, or the best qualified legal minds should be sitting as judges. We owe it to the community and so on to have a very, very high quality, absolutely a high quality of justice and judicial process and rules of evidence, the rule of law, application of law, and so on. That's a public service, and that is a demonstration of an advanced, sophisticated society. It's not how many black lesbians you have as judges. It's how good the quality of delivery is in the legal sphere. If you want to have a society that's progressing, that is the measure. That is probably one of the greatest measures of social progress. Nonetheless, that's all gone to shit with affirmative action. So they've got all these judges there who are clearly, you wouldn't employ them as assistant trainee legal clerks, let alone fucking judges. But anyway, they're in the role. You've put them in the role. So what would you do? Then my feeling would be let's do everything we can to make it work. It's not working now. We've put an underqualified, blithering moron, an activist into the role. But let's try. Okay, this is your job. Make no mistake. Let's just make it. This is your job to deliver the highest quality legal services to the community. Again, consistent with the law, due legal process, application of law, the evidence, and so on. And just to keep at them until they do it. This is what you're supposed to fucking do. Now, maybe it's just not going to work. Some of them are just too far gone for that, or incapable of it, or just too stupid. But nonetheless. But anyway, what I wanted to really do was compare how many complaints it takes before they'll remove, and even then, reluctantly, will remove the black lesbian Shaniqua judge from the bench, or how many complaints it'll take to remove the straight white male judge from the bench, from being a judge. Again, this is more the lower courts than the superior courts, but even so, in a say some of the mid-range superior courts where the judge has to stand for election, the forces of control from globalization can say, look, we can make sure no one runs against you, or we can donate a lot of money to your election campaign. We can clear the road so that you're elected unopposed. There's a whole lot of things that they can still do, and the period of the office the judge may have, maybe, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, depending on which region and jurisdiction and so on, and then they're up for re-election, so they can be got at again at that point. But just on the basis they've still got a while to run in their contract, or it is a job for life, they still can get rid of these judges by blaming and shaming and running media campaigns and hit jobs and hit pieces against them, and threatening their family and children indirectly, of course. Your wife's got a nice cozy job at such and such government department. We don't want her to lose that job, of course, but anything's possible. They're talking cutbacks there at the moment. So, but I'm sure she'll keep her job. By the way, we want you to do this or that. So they can still be got at, their children and so on. Maybe the judge has some peccadillos. Maybe he gets rent boys from down the, or maybe hookers or something like that. Something that they can be got. If you look at one of the big attorney generals in the United States who was going after the finance sector, he very ill-advisedly was having a regular romps with hookers, and they found out about it, and they got to him through that, and told him, you better do what we want, or we're gonna make sure this is all over the media. He tried to stare them down, and it was all over the media, and he lost his job anyway. So really, coming back to the why is it 40 plus complaints against a black lesbian judge before, and even then they do it reluctantly, and only if they have to will they remove her. But in the white guy, here's some examples. Now here's a straight white guy. He's hearing a rape case. Well, I think this is a case where they're assessing the compensation for a rape. Now the rape's not proven, so there's no actual conviction. But the woman is going to the court saying that because she suffered mental duress, prosecuting the case that wasn't successful, because she suffered mental duress, then she should be compensated for it. Now, this is a bit of a stretch, because the government and the taxpayer funded her entire legal process, so she's not out of pocket one penny. But she's arguing that because of the stress, she should get compensated. The straight white male judge, disagrees, and there's no rape was ever proven. The evidence was flimsy to begin with, and by the way, the evidence you gave was inconsistent and proven to be you committed perjury several times. So this idea that you're entitled to compensation is nonsense. You're just annoyed that you didn't get away with it, and you're upset you didn't get an easy payday, which I would have. I'm not sure the judge was particularly tactful, by the way, in that delivery, but nonetheless, I don't think anyone would disagree with his summation. The judges are far less tactful than that when dealing with straight white males. So the idea that he must and is bound to be only super tactful in dealing with minorities is nonsense. Nonetheless, and we need to understand just the huge outrage machine that's attached to minority rights and interests, because any minority right and interest in a white Western country is the device they use to divide and humble and humiliate and shame and otherwise divide the society, a white Western society. And this is one of the wedge issues, of course, that they use. Now, within minutes, almost, barely, the judge barely had time to get the words out of his mouth. Within minutes, this was a national news story. Evil straight white male judge, pressing the helpless minorities and this sort of thing. And the politicians, right on cue, with remarkably, swift and prepared action, were out rampaging length and breadth of the media landscape. It's outrageous, such misogyny, the patriarchy, the oppression, and every Marxist sort of statement imaginable came out. So, women's groups were again mobilized. There were street marches, uni kids placard waving. It was an entire machine got mobilized to deal with the supposed outrage. What was the outrage? That this woman didn't get compensation for a case that she lost, that was paid by the taxpayer anyway, and the whole thing was that the judge was somewhat misogynist, was the take on it, and that was enough. So this media campaign was run constantly. The politicians denouncing this guy as being a misogynist and the representative of the evil patriarchy, and on it went. And this attack was sustained. He was told he had to attend re-education. He was ordered by the head of that particular division of the court that he had to attend feminist re-education, and that if he didn't, he'd be put on leave without pay. And so they had all sorts of ways of getting at him without actually firing him. So effectively, they made his life and existence impossible. So he quit. And went into legal practice, but he quit. But that's how they can get rid of a judge. And this is one incident. That's it, just one. But they hounded this guy out of town. Whereas the black lesbian judges in the United States, they can commit endless amounts. Here's another one that's only been on the bench for 3 years, and she's got 40 complaints against her. And yet no action is being taken. She's not being sent off for re-education or anything like that. So we can see this vast difference between affirmative action appointment judges are allowed almost an open season on however many indiscretions or complaints they receive. But the the white judge only gets one. Here's another one, again along gender lines, where there was some, the judge made some utterance along the lines of, it was again a gender thing. I think it was around a rape case, or an alleged rape case. The case was thrown out, but the argument was that the man had engaged in what was described as physically coercive behaviour, and but it wasn't, there was no guns or knives or something like that. And the judge said, no, that's that's not. This is a straight white male judge said, no, that's not rape. I'm not going to include that as rape. And then this was again blown up into be evil, misogynist, patriarchy, yada yada. And that judge was again the screams and cry and politicians directly interfering in the judicial process. This judge has no place in our legal system, and they're frothing and carrying on, and clearly they decided to get rid of him. I think that case was probably a setup. I don't believe that was genuine. I think they might have set that whole thing up just so they could have the inflammatory type situation occur, so they could then go after him. Because again, it was just too perfect the way they chased after this guy. So he was kicked out. But that was one incident. So we're looking at a very double, multi-tiered justice and so on. We're looking at very, very different standards. Straight white male judges are held to the highest standards, the highest, unless of course they decide in favour of the globalist project, the enabling of the globalist project, then it's okay. But if they don't, then they're not welcome, and they want to get rid of them. And this is another way of undermining and feminizing and globalizing, and in particular creating ideological law to replace factual, evidence-based law. You've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.